Hi everyone, it's Dave, and this is the 5th episode of RedShark Live. Thanks ever so much for being here. It's unbelievable, we've done 5 of these already, and we've got a really special show for you today. The first thing I want to mention, and you won't realise this, is that we've actually got a completely different setup here, and the reason is we are demonstrating for probably the very first time a live broadcast which is via the Atomos Sumo HDR recorder, but it's also, HDR monitor recorder, but it's also now, with a software upgrade, capable of switching for camera inputs. And that is exactly what you're seeing at the moment. So we are going to talk about that a bit later. Meanwhile, let's just talk about something which I think this week has been actually quite amazing. As you probably all know that I'm a bit of a future junkie, and the thing is about that is that I tend to go on about us living in a quite extraordinary era, and where there's just an incredible amount of change, and we've just seen the best ever example of that, which I think is that NVIDIA at SIGGRAPH, which is the big computer graphics conference, announced a GPU called the Turing. It's not a single GPU, it's an architecture called Turing, after the great mathematician and computer innovator. And it is literally a leap of 10 years into the future. It's absolutely unbelievable. And just to reassure you that this isn't hyperbole, it is a GPU that incorporates not only all the usual GPU stuff, but very, very fast. Sorry to be a bit technical there with all the usual GPU stuff, but you know what I mean. And then it's got a ray tracing, dedicated ray tracing component. And as you probably know, ray tracing is the best way to do photo, in fact, if not the only way to do photorealistic rendering of images with global illumination. But it's also the slowest way because it's unbelievably complicated. And until now, real-time ray tracing has just been a dream. But all of a sudden, it's possible, and we've seen clips of this stuff happening in real time, and that's partly because of the dedicated ray tracing unit, but it's also because of the third part of the GPU, which is it's what's called a tensor processing unit, and effectively this is the AI, or the machine learning part. And you might think, how does that work when you're doing ray tracing? The way it works is that it kind of looks at images that are partially complete. You probably watch rendering taking place, and when they're partially complete, they kind of look speckly or gritty or grainy, because it iterates towards giving you something that you can recognize, and then makes it better and better. But those final parts that make it look perfect takes an increasing amount of time. What the AI does says, effectively, and apologies for the oversimplification, but it effectively says, I know what this is, it's a banana, and so it makes it a banana because it knows what a banana looks like, it knows what the edges on a banana looks like, it knows what the shading is, and it speeds the rendering up by an incredible factor, all of which adds up to it being able to ray trace in real time. Now, as far as I can see, NVIDIA's been a little bit cagey about what resolutions this works at, and I'm guessing it's not 8K. I'm pretty sure they're talking about 1080p at the moment, or something like that. But it will, whatever resolution you're working up, this will have sped things up by, let's say, an order of magnitude or more. And it is just an example of how old-fashioned the idea of technology merely being on an exponential curve, because this is more than exponential. It is a sudden leap into the future, and this is exactly what is going to happen with AI. We're going to see more and more of this happening, where AI gives us sudden leaps into the future. And of course, the more intelligent AI gets, the more of this we're going to see. So it's as if we're kind of walking into the future, holding hands with AI, but at some point it's going to be dragging us forwards, and obviously we need to keep a close eye on this. Not because I think AI is going to destroy us all, because I don't think yet a machine can want to do anything. The biggest problem with AI is unintended consequences. In fact, the biggest problem with any innovation is unintended consequences, and it's no different with AI. Anyway, those are just my thoughts. Meanwhile, I'd like to say hi to Simon again, who is our deputy editor for RedShark. Thanks for coming along, Simon. And as usual, we have some stuff on the desk. Before we get into this, we're going to talk about the Sumo in detail. Then we're going to talk about the EVA1 camera, incredible camera with 5.7K resolution. But I just want to mention, after I've been droning on for a while, that this whole thing is made possible by Matrox. Lovely company, great products, and as ever, we're streaming this via their Monarch HDX encoder, which is well, we've all seen it now. It gives fantastic pictures and is utterly dependable. We've left this thing running for days, for weeks, and it doesn't overheat. It just is an appliance that you can rely on. So thoroughly recommend it. We liked it before we started this, but we liked it even more now that we've done several of these, you know, quite critical live shows. So thanks very much to Matrox. As usual, if you're watching this on YouTube, please do leave comments and ask questions. So this is interactive. I will see your questions and we will respond to them as far as we can. Please send them throughout the show. If we don't answer them immediately, we will get to them at the end, and we'll just stay on air until we've answered them all. Let's talk about the Sumo, Simon. I mean, you've been working. We've got our friends from Atomos here, who's fantastic, and you've been sat alongside this thing. It's quite a nice piece of kit.
Yeah, it's an impressive piece of kit. Yeah, very. You know, the touchscreen interface. It looks very intuitive from what I can see. Yeah,
it's almost a headbutt interface, isn't it? You could almost do it with a headbutt. We're just showing a quick walk around here, so you can see the setup. And what we've got is the Sumo in the background. Got a few cameras here, 3 cameras, and it's. The thing about this is that it makes it all possible. It makes it possible, as you can see, we're not doing this in a dedicated studio. We're just doing this in a big room, in a house. And so here's the interface. Yeah, literally, just touch the picture you want to switch to. It's absolutely instant. It's been incredibly stable, and it is quite amazing how much is built into this device, because you can see there's a really nice interface. As usual, Atomos always goes for nice, colourful, intuitive. I hesitate to use that word usually, but it genuinely is intuitive. And you just pick the picture you want by touching it. What could be easier? And it just, I was sceptical at first. I thought it would be too basic, but it's actually what more do you need? I think it's really nice. So thanks ever so much to Atomos for doing that. And actually, just want to mention that we've got coupled up to the Sumo. We've got an Atomos recorder, and it is just being used as a playout device, and that's as smooth as anything as well, isn't it? Yeah. So it really is a quite incredibly powerful setup, and we're going to carry on using it. We're going to carry on using this setup. So. Here it is live. Anything could happen, as usual. So that's impressive setup, because I mean, it shows a great commitment by Atomos, doesn't it? They said we will do your live show.
Yes.
They know how many people watch this. They know that this show is becoming quite influential. So I think it's a very bold thing to commit to doing this. And
it's a big shift from what you would have normally, the normal desk and
the normal switcher. Yeah, but when it boils down to it, I think a lot of live shows don't need all that complexity. Less is definitely more.
Yeah, and the more intuitive, the better.
Yeah,
you know, if you've got a row of buttons, you know, it takes time to learn that kind of thing, and getting to know the interface inside out. Yeah. Whereas that thing looks like you can pretty much pick it up and use it, you know, straight away. You can see immediately what you're doing.
And it's not short of features, is it? I mean, it'll handle pretty much any kind of video, and it just seems to. Sorry, I meant to mention the audio as well. It's happy to for you to feed audio into it, and then it'll send that out, you know, through one of its outputs. But it's what I call, although it's relatively new, it's very new as a concept. Yeah. It's what I call it, though, a mature product. Yeah. It's not like, oh, let's do this, and because we can, and let's not do it very well because it's done in a hurry. It's actually a mature product.
Well, I mean, it's the mark of how reliable it is that we've set it up here and we're using it today. And totally, so far it's been working flawlessly. So
yeah. So thanks again to Atomos, and let's enjoy the rest of the show as switched by this amazing device. We're actually going to keep Atomos slightly in the picture here because purely by coincidence, actually, we are coming on to talk about the Panasonic EVA1, which correct me if I'm wrong in this précis of what it is. It's a 5.7K large sensor camera, and I mean, I've got quite strong feelings about the 5.7K idea. We've been talking about this a lot, haven't we, Simon? Which is, what does it actually mean? Is it, and I think it's very important for people to understand what to expect with 5.7K. It's not going to change everything. What it is, it's, if you like, it's headroom. It's headroom to give you very good 4K. Yeah?
Yeah. And, you know, as we were discussing earlier on, the point is if you're taking that raw signal and recording it onto the external recorder, that is effectively your raw negative. You know, it's all the data that you need to get a true 4K image.
Yes.
You know, that before the camera's done anything to it.
Because let's look at why you might want that, and I think it's partly because it's partly because you might want to use it, you stabilize the image, for example, you know, but it's mainly because we all know that with a single sensor camera there is this process which has become known as debayering. The process of turning what is essentially a monochrome sensor to enable it to produce a colour picture, and we all know that that's done with a multi-coloured filter, but that process loses some of the absolute resolution. So, you know, if you have a 4K sensor with 4K pixels in it and you debayer it, your resultant picture will be a bit less than 4K, but it won't be 4K.
Yeah, that's right. And obviously, as time goes on, if you're doing that in software, the software gets better.
Well, absolutely right. I remember.
So if you've got that original file, that, you know, nothing's been done to it, and then your computer can then handle things much better. And as technology progresses, you can do more with it later on.
And because I have these geeky conversations with camera manufacturers, I've had, at the very least, I've had Sony and Red telling me exactly the same thing. You know, Sony in the case of the F65, that the pictures that were taken on it originally look better now because the software's evolved. And the same thing with Red, with their, the Red one. It just doesn't just happen, but the clever people that invented the current version of their debayering software say that the pictures from the original camera not only stand up very well, but actually look better. Yeah. And so, just to go back to that, this rather theoretical, mathematical, but utterly necessary process, or you would just get a monochrome picture of debayering, does use up some of the resolution. Yeah. So what having 5.7K does is not necessarily give you a 5.7K picture. No. Ultimately, it will give you a very good
a true 4K.
4K.
Picture.
It's what I call super 4K. Yeah. It's 4K that has been derived from a higher resolution.
And that's why Panasonic put that chip in there.
I'm sure that was their intention all along. And I'm sure you can argue that it, especially if you go with RAW, that it will give you a greater than 4K picture, but it won't be. I don't think it'll be noticeable. It's just headroom. It's the same reason as when you're making an audio recording, you allow yourself some headroom. Yeah. And with this, you've got the headroom available to ensure that you have a very, very good 4K picture as a result of shooting in 5.7K.
That's right. And obviously, it's being recorded to this Atomos recorder in ProRes RAW, and with the much reduced processor overhead, I can play it back on my laptop pretty well. It's a really nice way of working, and it's not that much different to working with normal ProRes.
Okay. Well, so let's rewind a bit, because we've kind of got ourselves into the topic of ProRes RAW, and this is one of the first discussions that people will have seen about what it's actually like to use. Just to remind people that ProRes RAW is it's related to ProRes, very closely related to ProRes, but it has ProRes-like properties, but it is genuine RAW. It is compressed RAW at the full resolution, and it is unlike uncompressed RAW, it's processor friendly. Unlike uncompressed RAW, it's not proprietary to a particular camera, and unlike compressed RAW, it is you can just play with it on your timeline. What was your experience with it?
Yeah, it's very smooth. I mean, on my MacBook Pro, it's one of the 2016 models, so it's not the most recent one, but as I showed you earlier, I can scrub back and forth. If I've got to set it to the performance priority, but I can scrub back and forth pretty quickly. There's no lag on while doing that or playing back, and it's just like handling any other clip.
And I think we've got some footage we can show. Is that right? Yeah. Let's just run that, and here we go. What are we seeing here, Simon?
Yeah. So I've got the original shot, and then sort of a very rudimentary grading pass, as you can see. This lovely steam train coming past. But we're going to go in 400% zoom, or crop, should I say? And you can see the detail that's apparent there.
And it just looks beautiful. I mean, it looks colourful because the original scene was colourful. Yeah. But it's when the steam clears, it looks fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, I only did a very quick pass on that. I wasn't, didn't take any particular time over it. No. You can see the raw details, very low noise. It's,
Okay, fantastic. So, and what do you think of this combination to use, the EVA1 and the Atomos recorder? Yeah. I've forgotten what it's called. What's it called?
The Shogun Inferno.
Yeah.
No, it's a great combo. As you can see, it's a pretty when set up. Well, this is a pretty compact unit, really.
Yeah.
It's not.
And a great viewfinder.
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I can't say enough good things about this. Using this outside, it's absolutely wonderful. Yeah. It does have a sun shade that you can put on, which is quite large.
Yeah.
It can be quite cumbersome, but I found that if I'm just moving around quickly, even in bright sunshine, I can see this monitor really, really well. It's really nice. And like I said, it's compact. I mean, this camera at the moment has got a 70-200 lens on, so it's got a sort of weighty lens there. But with a normal smaller lens, it's even more compact and light. And yeah, it's a good combo for that kind of recording, and knowing you're getting that kind of quality out of it. For the price, we've discussed the price of the EVA1 before.
What is it roughly?
I think it's about £6,500, something like that.
Yeah,
around that mark.
If I do a quick calculation, that's about €6,500
Yeah.
these days.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, that's fantastic, Simon. Thanks ever so much for that. We've got some questions.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so can the EVA1 record 5.7K RAW internally or only?
No, it's only external.
Yeah. Okay, which is not really surprising, is it?
No, because when you record internally, it's doing all the debayering in camera and laying down the 4K.
Yeah.
So the whole point of this is that you're getting that.
Yeah. I think it's just worth reiterating what actually goes on inside a camera, because you've got the lens at one end and you've got the SDI output, or what comes out as a file on a memory card. But what actually goes on inside a camera, the sensor is actually an analog device. This is digital video, but the sensor is an analog device. So it then has to go through analog to digital conversion, and it's only after that the debayering happens, because the debayering is a mathematical process, and you can't do a mathematical process on an analog video. So it's worth remembering that. And then if you think about it, so the raw output from the camera is going to have a different pathway to the rest of it. And you're also going to have, obviously, then compression. What is it? What are the codecs in this camera?
You've got AVC Intra.
Which is an H.264 based intra frame.
Intra frame, yeah. I can't remember
intra frame meaning iframe only. Every frame exists in its own.
Is it 400 megabits per second? I think it goes.
That is quite high. Yeah.
I can't remember the specific figure.
Yeah. So it's good in its own right, but it really comes into its own with RAW. I mean, with I suspect with these cameras, if you use the RAW output, you are well up there in terms of cinema quality. A good lens.
Yeah.
Throw a really good lens on this.
Yeah. I mean, you've obviously got to be careful with your exposure. You've got to make sure when you're recording RAW with this, don't use any other ISO apart from the base ISOs. Yeah. It's a dual ISO camera, but don't go between those. Use the base ISOs. Otherwise, you could get yourself into trouble. Yeah.
I got a question about the Sumo, actually. I'm not sure if we'll be able to answer this, but can it run off batteries? Well, I think I can answer that. It does.
Yeah. Well, we can see the mounts on the back. Got a V mount on the back of that.
Yeah. So. Which is quite a concept, isn't it? Really.
Yeah. I mean that's pretty fantastic, actually. I mean, that makes it really very portable indeed. You could be out in the middle of nowhere with that.
Another question. Again, I'm not sure if we can answer it. Is the Sumo a single model for worldwide? I think our friends at Atomos are nodding. I think that's a yes. It would be much harder to make a model that wasn't, but I mean that means essentially that you can plug virtually any of the worldwide video formats.
Yeah. I think we're beyond the days of cameras that are locked to 50 hertz.
Yeah, well, I thought so, but it does crop up
sometimes occasionally. Yeah.
Look, we've got a nice close up there at the back of the Sumo, and you can see the battery. The battery's going on. Well, this is live television. I just think that's an incredible moment, and there we are. So I'm not going to pretend it is running off a battery. I don't think we're quite confident enough to pull the power out in a live demo, but I'm sure that would work. Okay, so I'm just going to do one more question. Pretty wide question. What do you think ProRes RAW means for the industry and other codecs?
In terms of, that's a tricky one. I mean, ProRes RAW so far only works in Final Cut Pro.
Yeah.
Until it starts becoming, until you can start using it in any other editing system, it's not going to become hugely prolific.
No.
I mean, at the moment, one of the most popular editing systems is Premiere. So until.
But do you think it's going to spread beyond that? Because ProRes certainly did.
I wouldn't say definitely. I would say I would very much hope it does.
Yeah.
Is what I can say to that. But I could never say that's definitely going to happen. I would be surprised if it didn't.
Yeah. I'm just going to say that I think it's there if you want to use it. If you want it, like any technology, you've got to. You've got to go with what it demands. If you need it, you can use it.
Yeah, I mean, when you are using it, there's not that much more overhead being used than the best quality flavour of ProRes. So it's very easy to work with. It's very easy to manage.
Yeah.
So
in a sense, you're getting more information off the camera. Yeah. But you're not incurring the massive overhead you would expect through having to process that additional information. I've spoken to a few people using it now, and nobody has even hinted that the quality isn't anything.
No, I mean I saw one recent test and comparison between it was a high bitrate internal camera recording. I'm not going to say which camera it was, but and an external ProRes RAW recording. And on the waveform, it was very, very clear to see the differences between the two in terms of quantization.
Okay, I had said that was the last question, but bizarrely, another question has popped up in between all the others. What is the highest resolution for internal recording on the EVA1? As
far as I know, it's 4K.
But I mean, I think probably that the person asking the question might mean in terms of the codec and the bit rate. But I think you hinted at that, didn't you, earlier?
Yeah, I think it's around 400 megabits per second. Don't hold me to that.
With AVC intra.
Yeah.
So H.264 iframe only, which is in itself a very good and certainly at that bit rate, that will be a very robust.
Yeah, I mean there's a huge multitude of recording options within it.
I think it even regresses back to DV if you ask it.
It's but it's as I say, the internal recording itself is very high quality.
Yeah.
But this, if you want the absolute ultimate, and you've got the time to grade, and then there's no reason not to use that, really. Yeah. In all fairness.
All right. Thanks so much. Just a matter of interest, can you just pick it up and show people, because this is an interesting rig. Just pick it up. Can we get a close up on that?
I'll just turn it on.
This is a really, really impressive looking rig.
Let's see.
What you can do, I think what you can do for the money now is just unbelievable. And I've heard a few people recently complain that cameras like this are too expensive. And all I can say is you probably weren't around 15 years ago.
No.
When we didn't have 4K, we didn't have a camera that could do anything like this for less.
I don't think people really know what they have. When you consider that we used to have to work around the equipment all the time. Yeah. And now there really isn't any excuse not to be able to record a really good quality picture.
Absolutely.
The limitations on the person using it rather than the camera these days.
Absolutely right. Okay, well look, we're pretty much out of time. Simon, if you'd like to quietly take your microphone off and get back so that we can wind this program up. And what I'd just like to say is that IBC is coming up, the International Broadcasting Convention in Amsterdam. It's pretty much the NAB of Europe. NAB, of course, being the IBC of North America. And it's a massive show. We don't know what's going to be there. We know a little bit. We signed some non-disclosure agreements, and we can't even hint at what they're about. But I do know it's going to be very, very, very interesting. And on the Monday night of the show, we are holding one of our famous RedShark Connect events. And watch out for invitations. But this is for filmmakers, anybody who's involved in making films now or in the future. Come along, and you'll find some great partners of ours there, including Atomos, Red Cameras. It's a wonderful venue overlooking the Amsterdam skyline. In fact, I reckon it's got the best view of Amsterdam. It's all free. There's going to be things to nibble. There's going to be things to drink, and we've done a few of these now, and it's just a fantastic evening. So do keep your eyes out for the notifications in RedShark, and if you're anywhere in Western Europe, do come along, because it'll be fantastic. Anyway, that's about it. Thanks ever so much for watching. Thanks to Dan and everybody from Atomos for all their help. It's been made it a really great show. Thanks to Simon, and we'll see you next time. Bye.